right. Well, hi, everybody. Good afternoon. And first, let me start by thanking you, Mark, for inviting me. I'm really excited about this, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. As you mentioned, quality and content are two things that I'm very passionate about, so I appreciate the chance to talk about that this afternoon. And thank you to everybody who's attending today. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us and hopefully get something out of this. So I'm just going to jump right in, and as Mark said, there'll be plenty of time for questions, and I'll be happy to answer anything that that may come up. So let me just move this out of my way. Okay. So measuring opportunity through content evaluation. As Mark mentioned, when you get ready to buy a website, of course you want to make sure anything that you buy, is it going to be worth the time and the money that I'm going to spend, and how much work am I going to have to do on this later on? And one of the most important components of a website, well, a website isn't a website without content. So this is going to be one of the biggest things that you'll want to look at and be able to evaluate before you make that purchase decision. So we're going to talk about how, oops, and my keyboard does not want to, there we go. Okay. So as I said, before you buy a website, it's actually not optional. I mean, this is something that you really do need to look at. What is the existing content like? There are going to be two main factors that you will look at and that we'll discuss today, and that's quality, which will refer to the content itself, excuse me, and then the optimization. Quality will include, of course, spelling and grammar. I'm sorry to tell you there's no way around it. Spelling and grammar are important. In fact, if you saw a recent article, I want to say it was on Search Engine Marketing, Bing has just come out and said that they are actually using spelling and typos and grammar as ranking factors now. So this is going to be something that you're going to want to take note of when you're looking at content. Excuse me, not just content for a site that you're buying, but any kind of content you're producing for the web. Then we're going to talk about style, the length of the content, and then reading level. So spelling and grammar. In addition to possibly being, according to Bing, definitely now being ranking factors, poor spelling and grammar can have a negative effect on your authority and trust. When someone comes to your website, if you've got a bunch of stuff that's misspelled and the grammar's not good and your content is just really lacking, there's no trust being built there. There's no reason for anybody to think that you're taking the time to make sure that this website is, that you've put effort into it. And if the content is poor, what is that saying about the product or service offered on the site? Excuse me. Of course, today when I'm doing a webinar, that's the day when I decide to get a frog in my throat, so you'll have to forgive me. Okay, and then style. The next thing you're going to want to look at is the content that exists on the site already too casual? Is it too formal? Is it using good vocabulary? Good vocabulary is good, but is it too good? Are they breaking out the $10 words? Or, not using good vocabulary at all? And then length. Length is going to be something that search engines look at. The general guideline that I usually give to clients is any page that needs content. For example, you're not going to worry too much about a contact page, but any page that is going to have content on it, you want to have at least, and this is the bare minimum, 300 words of content. I'd say 4 to 8 is optimal. But then the next thing is making sure that it's short enough to hold readers' attention. You don't want something that's so long that people are just scrolling and scrolling and you lose them by the end. And if, like a lot of content out there, that's where the call to action is at the end, you're possibly losing conversions if that content is too long and you're losing the reader before they get there. And then next is the reading level. Can the content be easily understood by the audience? And this is a bit of a disheartening statistic, but it is true. The average American reads at the 7th grade level, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Social Services. Excuse me. You don't want to make it too simplistic either, and this comes down to trying to find that good happy medium where you're not talking down to people, but you're also not talking over their heads. So is the content on the site accomplishing that? Is it something that is easily understood by most Americans or the average American, but something that is not so simplistic that it's not engaging, it's not interesting, it's boring, or too complicated to the point where people just pass it by because they don't want to make the effort. Okay, so optimization of content is going to include a few factors of its own: good use of keywords, meta tags, titles, and good linking. There's a distinction here between, when I say meta tags, I'm talking about, oh, hang on, I'm jumping ahead of myself, excuse me. Let's do keywords first. Good use of keywords. You want to make sure that keywords are in the copy, but content should not be stuffed. You've probably heard the phrase keyword stuffing. That's like SEO circa 1995, when you tried to work the keyword into the content as many times as possible to make sure that the search engine, there was no question of what this page was about and you could rank with it. Can't do that anymore. Panda and Penguin both. Penguin not so much. Penguin is more about linking, but Panda did away with that. Some sites are still trying to recover from that, as a matter of fact. And now we also have Google Hummingbird, which has made long-tail keyword phrases even more important. Essentially what Google Hummingbird was about was natural-sounding content and natural-sounding search terms. Instead of just throwing, a few keywords into the search box, you should now be able to actually ask Google questions. How do I buy a website online? Where do I find good content? Whatever the question is that you're asking, Google is getting better and better at understanding the natural language that we use. So that's where long-tail keyword phrases are going to be even more important in the content that is on the site. And it's not choppy. It's not obviously written to target keywords. It's written for the audience. And meta tags. Now here we are. So the two most important meta tags on any page on a site are going to be the title tag and the meta description. So you've got keywords, you've got the structure of the tags, and then you've got best practices. Those three things work in tandem in this way. Just like you want keywords in the content on your page, you also want keywords in your title tag and your meta description. As far as structure, when you're placing a keyword in there, is it more toward the front as opposed to at the end? Because one of the best practices is the number of characters in both the title tag and the meta description. If they're too long, they'll be truncated by Google or by any search engine. And if you've got the keyword at the end, it's going to be cut off. And your target audience, the people who are searching for you, the people who are searching for your keywords and your keyword phrases, are not going to see that. And it's potential for affecting your page and your site showing up in those search results. So those are going to be some important things. And actually, just the existence of the title tag and meta description. Are those included on all the pages? Are they done correctly? Are they not repeated from page to page? These should be, those two meta tags must be unique to each page. If you've got the same meta description on each page, you're diluting your own results and you're kind of defeating your own purpose there. So that would be something that if you see that on a site you're looking at, that's going to be something you're going to want to address. This is an example. Just happens to be, it really is a good example of a really good meta description. And your meta description is the first opportunity to convert. So where it says highly experienced website brokers, that's where the title tag comes in. And then the meta description starts with want to sell your website. And this is really good because in that small space that Quiet Light Brokerage has, they've managed to explain to you what they do, that the people who work there are industry veterans, they know what they're talking about, and they've got their 1-800 number right there. So, there's no question about what you're getting at this site just from their meta description for their homepage. So that's going to be something that you're going to want to look at for sure. Okay. And yeah, the better the description, the more likely the searcher is going to be to click through. If your description is vague, or if there's no meta description indicated at all, Google will randomly pull some content off the page and put it up there. So it may be completely out of context. It may not make any sense, and you're going to possibly lose some conversions there, some click-through. So the better the description and the more accurate it is, and the more engaging it is, the more likely someone's going to be to click through and land on your site. excuse me, and yes, being compelling, eye-catching, that's where some of the good writing is going to come in, and again, that natural sounding text, not just written just for keywords. Okay, and Catalyst Search Marketing did a Google click-through study, click-through rate study, sorry, and it showed that meta descriptions that now cater to those long-tail queries, kind of catering now to Hummingbird, and the way that people are searching raised click-through rates. So sites that appeared in position number 1 that just had one word, the click-through rate was 17.68. 4 or more words, 18.76. Not a huge difference there, but it still is an indication. Well, if you see the second position, 4.41 up to 12.41 click-through rate. The more words and the more targeted those meta descriptions were, the better the click-through rate. So again, something to definitely look at when you're evaluating content on a site before you buy it. And titles. This is what I was getting at a little bit ago. This is different from the title tag. This is just the titles of pages, of articles, of blog posts. These are important too. You also want those to include keywords. Usually, depending on how you have your blog set up, if it's on WordPress, for example, normally the title of the post is going to end up being the title tag on that page. You can change it. You normally don't want to. You just want to make sure that your title is optimized and done well enough to serve as both the post title and the title tag. And again, same things for the title tag though, including keywords. Are the keywords well placed, and are the titles an appropriate length? Again, you want to avoid truncation. If you do have, as I said, the article or post title serving as the title tag, you want to make sure that it's not being truncated in the search results. So again, keywords more toward the front, engaging and getting people to click through and read your content. And then linking. Does the content on the site contain strong internal links? Internal links are important for strengthening site architecture and ensuring that you know, they need to make sense. If you've got a blog post and you're linking to a services page, that's potential for leading people to your services. It's again strengthening the way that your site is structured. So those are really important. And then, does the content contain appropriate outbound links? This is mostly going to be true for or apply to blog posts and articles. You're normally not going to have any outbound links on your services pages or your home page, but when you're writing blog posts, you want to make sure that you're linking out to valuable and authoritative and good sources. You're trying to provide information to the people who are reading your site, reading your content, and who are hopefully converting and becoming customers. Excuse me. So you want to make sure that the content is linking out to good sources. It's not user-generated content. It's not Wikipedia. That they've got a good outbound link structure going on, and not too many either. And then yes, the appropriate structure. One of the things that is coming about now is the anchor text that is used to link out. And this was specifically addressed in a recent blog post that Matt Cutts did. Matt Cutts is the head of web spam at Google, specifically pertaining to guest posting, but it's pretty much applicable across the board now. Just like keyword stuffing has gone by the wayside, optimized anchor text, and this is what Google's Penguin update addressed. Optimized anchor text, if done too often or if not done well enough, can actually have a detrimental effect on the site that you're linking to or that is linking to you. So outbound links being appropriately structured is going to be not using optimized anchor text, and it may not get to the point where we're going back to the early 90s with click here, but just something that's applicable to the site that you're linking to, but not necessarily one of their high-value keywords. So again, when you're evaluating the content on the site, does it have good internal linking? Are those links, are there outbound links, and are they all appropriately structured? And internal links, though, you can get a little bit more optimized with internal links because that's within your own site, and that is, again, a way to strengthen that internal architecture. So you don't need to worry so much about having optimized anchor text on those, but the outbound and your inbound links as well. You do need to be aware of that. Okay. Now, e-commerce content is going to be just a little bit different. With this, you're going to have 4 main factors. Quality, again, always quality. Sourcing, supplementary content, and then your calls to action. Now, as I said, all the previous quality aspects, they apply to e-commerce as well. The length, the keyword usage, the good titles, interesting product descriptions that are going to get people to click through, all of those things still apply. But a few additional considerations are things like the product descriptions themselves, important aspects, size, color, weight, are those things included? I don't know about you guys, but one of the things that drives me nuts on Amazon is going and searching for a product and reading through the description and trying to figure out, okay, is this, bookshelf or whatever it is going to fit where I want to put it, and there are no measurements whatsoever. And then I have to go digging through reviews. Did somebody mention what the size is? That stuff is missing, and I'm not sure how Amazon can possibly address that with as many products as they have on that site, but it is an issue for them and something that really bugs me. So e-commerce content or an e-commerce site, are those things included? Is that something that they have taken, the current site owner has taken the time to do? Are the product descriptions consistent? You don't want to have one product that has a really good, thorough description and then the next one just maybe a couple of words. This doesn't mean you want things repeated from product to product if they're similar, but you do want to make sure that you're providing enough information and that one isn't favored over another for any reason. And are the descriptions long enough to inform? And this kind of echoes back to page content and blog posts and articles as well. Is it long enough to provide the information that the customer needs and long enough for search engines, which product descriptions are not going to fall into that 400 to 800 word area, obviously, but is it long enough to provide the information it needs to provide, but short enough that your customer is not going to get so bored with the product description that they're just going to bounce out before they make the purchase? So those are things you're going to want to look at. Now, content sourcing. One of the things that you can do with an e-commerce site is, and this is especially true for sites that are affiliate marketing sites, is you can have product descriptions come from a vendor feed. And what that does is automatically populate the site with product descriptions, even photos, pricing information, everything, without you having to write a single word. Now, the problem with this is the first one, and probably the biggest problem with it, is duplicate content. Because what happens is, if there's, let's say there are 10 sites out there that use that same vendor and offer those same products from that vendor, and they're all using that vendor feed, they all have the same content on their website. So there's nothing to distinguish your site, the site that you're thinking about spending all this money on and buying, there's nothing to distinguish it from all those other sites out there using that same vendor feed. This brings up potential quality issues because sometimes vendor feeds, they've been put together without as much of an eye toward quality. It's more for speed and just getting the products loaded in there, especially vendors that have thousands of products. They've, just loaded up the quickest, easiest description they can possibly put in there. Probably hasn't been edited very well. So you're going to find misspellings, you're going to find typos, you're going to find errors and quality issues. And because of the fact that they have either been auto-generated or they've been put together by, a content mill or done by something like Mechanical Turk or, something that was not, again, not keeping quality in mind, it's going to have that auto-generated feel. It's not going to be something that is written to grab people's attention and get them to click through and get them to want to buy these things. Excuse me. So those are going to be some sourcing issues that you'll want to look at if you're considering buying an e-commerce site. Now, supplementary content. Some e-commerce sites will have a blog, some don't. For some, it can be helpful. For others, no, not at all. You know, a site that sells shoes, you can blog about that. This may surprise you depending on how you're feeling about shoes, but you can really blog about that every single day and never run out of content. And it can really help to boost sales. Now, if it's selling, you know, I don't know, plumbing parts, you might have a little bit more of a difficult time finding content and finding topics to blog about on a regular basis. So is there a blog? If there is it contributing to the products that are being sold in a positive way? Is it not being forced? Is it not just trying to find any kind of thing you can talk about with these plumbing products just to have a blog up there? Because if it is, it's actually doing more damage than helping. So if there is a blog, is it helping? Are you going to want to keep it? If there's not a blog, are you going to want to add one? And again, it's going to depend on what this e-commerce site is selling, the kinds of products that are there, and how much time that is going to be a factor, how much time you're going to be able to put into managing a blog. Are there any resources on the site? How-to articles and instructions for use or assembly. Those can be really helpful in, first of all, driving traffic. When if those articles and those resources are written well and written for ranking, to help with ranking. Let me make clear that there's never any guarantee about any kind of ranking, but are they written well enough to contribute to positive rankings? And are they valuable resources? Are they actually helpful? Are they things that people are going to want to share that they found on your site? And again, the end goal here is contributing to purchases and conversions. So, and then any other kind of content related to the products that are for sale on that site. So the first question is, does this content exist already? If it does, is it actually helpful? Or does it need to be edited or changed or boosted somehow? Or does it not exist at all? And could you possibly add it later on, thereby adding more value to the site? Okay, and calls to action. You can't have an e-commerce site. You can't have really, there are a few sites that can get away with not having some kind of call to action somewhere, whether it's signing up for a newsletter or actually buying a product or purchasing a service. E-commerce site, there's no question. There are going to be calls to action. There should be calls to action in several places throughout the site and on several spots on each page, specifically the product pages. Are they prominently placed where people are going to see them? Are they worded well? Is it not just click here to buy? Is there some kind of, you know, exciting or attention-grabbing text in the purchase buttons? And are they used appropriately throughout the site? Obviously, you don't want a call to action for buying anything on the contact page. That's not going to help you out very much. But as I said, the product pages and those resource pages, that's where the calls to action are going to be very important. So do those, and the same questions apply. Do they already exist? If they do they need to be improved, or can they be improved? Well, anything can be improved. Or do they not exist at all and need to be added? Now, actually making the decision to buy the website. If you've gone through all the content on a website and you found, okay, it's keyword stuffed, there's too much content on all the pages, it's got calls to action everywhere, and the content is just bad. This is just, you know, it doesn't look like it's an effective site at all. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy it. It's not, content issues are not prohibitive of that decision, because content can always be edited, it can always be changed, it can always be improved. If the site, for whatever reason, it has all these content issues, but it's still making money and it still has a decent amount of traffic, then that could still be a really good buy, because imagine how much more revenue can be generated and how much more traffic that site might get once the content is improved and edited and is working well and working with the site rather than against it. Excuse me. And again, just to stress, as I said, content can always be improved or changed. And I kind of already said that. So if the revenue is good, but the content is bad, the revenue can be increased, and the same with the traffic. Oh, and Marketing Sherpa did a really good study where they found one e-commerce site saw a 400%, and that's not a typo, 400% increase in traffic by just optimizing their keywords to be more in line with search terms. And what that means is the existing content on the site was using certain keywords or was not using keywords at all, but the search terms that people were using to find the products that were available on that site and the roundabout way that they were coming to that site with those search terms. Once the site optimized their content to contain those keywords that matched up with the search terms people were using and the way people were finding their site and landing on it, once those two things were in sync, boom, explosion, traffic explosion. So again, that does not have to be a prohibitor to buying a website. If the content is not good, if it's not optimized, if it needs work, that's actually an opportunity. Excuse me. Oh, actually, before I move on, one of the things that Mark and I were talking about when we were talking about this website was that when you're buying a website, to me, it's kind of like you've probably seen maybe on the DIY Network or Home and Garden Network, those house flipper shows, or there are people who just flip houses. They'll come in and they find a house that maybe it's not in the best of condition. It's got a really good foundation though, and it has a brand new roof, but it needs a little bit of TLC inside. It needs maybe some new kitchen cabinets and rip out the old carpeting and put some tile down or something. And once that's done, once those improvements are made, it's an awesome house that then they can sell at a profit. It's the same thing here. When you're evaluating a website for purchase and you come in and look at it and you say, wow, okay, well, it's a pretty good site. They're selling good products and they've already got some decent traffic, but this content really needs some work. That's all it's going to take is improving that content, putting a little bit of effort into it and coming up with a plan to improve it. And the potential is just limitless. So don't let that stop you from making that purchase. Now, how to address these content issues. The first thing you're going to do is determine what content needs to be improved or replaced. Are the static pages like the About page and the product pages or the services pages, are those okay, but the blog really needs some work? It's been neglected for the last 2.5 years or something. Are the product descriptions lacking? Are the product descriptions coming from, if it's an e-commerce site, are they coming from a vendor feed? Do those need to be customized and replaced? Make a priority list. That's going to depend on what type of site it is, the kind of traffic it's getting, what the high traffic pages are. Those are going to be the ones that you want to improve first. There's all kinds of information that you can get from analytics that's going to tell you what sites are getting the most traffic. And so create that priority list and then start working your way down the list. Do the content that's most important, getting seen by the most people first, and then start working your way down to the things that are not getting not getting as much attention, with the goal being to get them a little bit more attention later on. Determine what content you want to add aside from existing content. If as we said earlier, there's no blog right now, but you think that it could be a good booster for both traffic and revenue and conversions, then maybe think about adding one. Are there any resources? If not, do you want to add those? Which one are you going to do first? Again, make a priority list and work that priority list into the priority list for the existing content and the improvements and changes that need to be made there, if any. And then create a schedule for that content creation and editing. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do everything at once, and you don't want to. So come up with a schedule, an editorial calendar if it's applying to a blog, and don't try to do everything at once. Just work your way through it methodically, and eventually all the content on the site can be much better than it was. Now, as far as the actual ability to do all of this, the resources. Do you have a content team? Do you have writers and editors, or do you have a content manager? Do you have a content strategist? Do you have people who do this for a living on your staff who can put their time and effort to this new site that you're going to purchase? All of this needs to be done in, you don't want to drag this out over a year or a year and a half or something. You want to make sure that it's done in a timely manner. So do you have enough resources who can first evaluate all of this content, or help you evaluate all of this content, and then come up with that priority list and then start working their way through it? And if not, there's always outsourcing. If you don't have the in-house resources, and it's going to take you, much too long to do all of this yourself, you can seek help from outside professionals. Content audit is always a good place to start. What are you, which is essentially an inventory. Where does everything stand right now? And this is going to be especially helpful on large sites and on e-commerce sites that have hundreds or possibly thousands of pages. That's a lot for one person to go through. Or if you don't have the in-house team, that's going to be a lot for you to do. So is there someone who can perform a content audit for you? Come up with a content strategy, actually do the content creation, edit the existing content, provide consulting for you. Yes, I think you should add a blog because you're selling shoes and a shoe blog is going to be awesome. Or no, maybe don't do that because nobody really wants to read blog posts about plumbing parts and equipment. Someone who can make that schedule for the content improvement and creation, and create an editorial calendar if you do have a blog. Managing the blog, that's something that can take a lot of time in order to do that well and make sure that the blog is actually contributing, as I said contributing to the success of the site and not detracting from it. It requires a little bit of time and management there. It's not something that you can just throw up a post and walk away from it and not worry about it. And then the overall content management. Is there someone who can oversee all of this? Again, if you don't have that resource in-house, this is something that you can outsource. And that's where we are. So if you would like to connect with us at PassionFruit, you can reach us here. And again, thank you for your time. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer anything.